Trust, honesty, humility, transparency and accountability are the building blocks of a positive reputation. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. We meet you again Monday at 9:50 p.m. live from Stein Studios in Ratmalana to discuss about Sri Lanka's political landscape and policies for the upcoming elections. We've invited 4 guests to the studios this evening as well. Let me quickly introduce them to you. Joining us this evening on the show is Mahesh Thiranayake, candidate from the United National Party. Also joining us tonight on the show is Dr. Anil Jayant Fernando, nationalist candidate of the National People's Power. Also joining us tonight on the show is Attorney at Law Lihini Fernando from the Samagi Jana Balawege, as well as Attorney at Law Kanishka Vitharana, Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, who will be representing their party today on this show tonight. So let's start off tonight's show with Mahesh Thiranayake, candidate of the United National Party. Mahesh, thank you very much for joining us this evening on the show. Being a journalist and now to a politician, congratulations for getting nominations from the UNP first, and all the very best for the 5th of August as well. So let's start off with that positive note. And the question tonight for you is, right now the United National Party has 15 members as parliamentarians who would be taking over from the old parliament probably to the new parliament, whereas the Samagi Jana Balawege has approximately 90 members who were sitting in the old parliament, which will have a spillover for the 5th of August polls as well. Doesn't this worry Sri Lanka's oldest political party? 15 against 90. Your time starts now.
Answer is no. First of all,
yes.
Yeah, we are not worried. We are not worried about it. And first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I still try to switch my gear, being a presenter, writer, media person, now a politician, so I see the both sides of the coin. So answer to your question that it doesn't worry us. If you look at how UNP was formed, let's go back to 1915. It was a collection of like-minded youth who got together in the temperament movement. And eventually they were able to win independence to this country, and they formed a party which is called United National Party, which accommodated the views of all Sri Lankans, irrespective of their religion, race, caste, so on and so forth. And this party has gone through various kinds of ups and downs. In 56, we were reduced to 8 seats, but we again in 60s won the government. 1970 to 1977 is the classic example of the resilience power of United National Party. We were reduced to 17 seats and we lost Dudley Seranayake, who was one of the popular stalwarts of United National Party. By 77, United National Party, UNP was able to win 140 seats and formed the government, and that brought wide economic reforms to the country. Then it continued for 17 years due to incumbency factor. UNP lost at 1994 general elections. Similar situation occurred. A young leader took the helm of the party, and we continued similar setbacks. But at each setbacks, what we did was, as a party that keeps pace with the times, keep pace with the aspirations of the people, we go back to people and ask from them what you really need from us. So we learn our lessons, we reform ourselves, and we make a strong comeback. Similarly, a similar scenario is happening now. I agree, the division of the party, division of the stalwarts in the party worries the public. But that doesn't mean UNP is going to be worried or it is going to be reduced, because we have shown greater resilience. At the upcoming elections, people will see how strong UNP is. There is a clarion call for new faces in parliament. If you look at the history of United National Party, at each parliamentary elections, we have been able to successfully field new faces. Even in these elections, we have fielded many new faces. Now let's go to the question of new faces. Why do we need new faces? People have not rejected parliament, but what people ask for is new faces for a new parliament. Why? Because we have lost the trust. Now the question is, what do people expect from new faces? There was a time that we expected educated, wise men to go to the Yavanava and reform the whole country. But that also failed. Why? Education, being wise, being a brainy person, will not make a good politician or will not make him a contributor towards the national
Mahesh,
reform.
are you trying to say that, sorry to interrupt you, but are you trying to say that the UNP leader who has been in the helm of the party since 1994 is not wise enough and he should be also thrown out of the upcoming parliament?
No, I'm not saying so. I'm not saying so. I have many reasons for that, but I think I will answer that question later in the show. Since this is the opening remarks, I think I have the privilege to set the atmosphere,
Yeah,
right?
Of course, no problem.
So the clarion call is for new faces. Now the challenge is to understand what new faces should do in parliament. I believe the new faces should be educated, should be wise enough, but the biggest challenge is whether they can understand the current challenges we are facing. Now, the challenges we faced 5 years or 10 years ago are not going to happen this time. Especially in the post-COVID economic challenges, the challenges are much different. For example, unemployment, decrease in government revenues.
No, see, Mahesh, I want to interrupt you again. See, you are speaking about this clarion call, about having new faces. So that boils down to people like Ranil Wickremesinghe, Daya Gamage, who has been in the parliament for many, many years now. And you know Ranil Wickremesinghe has been representing parliament for many decades now. So does that mean that new people should be appointed to parliament and not the old people? Must they be set aside?
Well, it's a call from the people. It's from the voters. The voters should decide who are the seniors of any party who should be sent to parliament and who are the new faces that should go to parliament. So it's the power is in the hands of people. What I'm trying to say is there has been a clarion call for new faces. And there was a time that people said all 225 should be dumped in the one now, which is not going to happen because most of the political parties have given nominations to certain people who are labeled as corrupt, who are labeled as unsuitable. People have no choice. But in that context, yes, I understand there is a setback, seemingly a setback for UMP because of the division. But UMP has taken this opportunity and has fielded many new faces, like what happened in 77.
Thank you very much, Mahesh Senanayake, candidate of the United National Party. We now move to Attorney at Law Lihini Fernando from the Samagga Jana Balawegaya. Lihini, interestingly, even before the campaign trail began, a few people dropped out of the Samagga Jana Balawegaya. And one of them was the Mathura district stalwart, Mangala Samaravira. What is the reason behind this, for dropping out of the campaign trail even before it started? Is it because of a lack of leadership? Or is it because of fear of losing the poll on the 5th of August?
First of all, let me thank you for inviting me to...
Nice to have you on board as well, Lihini.
Yes, to speak to the nation today. Actually, to speak on that, I don't think it worries because if I'm to say, Honorable Mangala Samaravira had his reasons and we know he was instrumental in, not instrumental rather, he was making some controversial statements back in the day. So probably he would have had his reasons for withdrawing himself, but it doesn't worry the Samagga Jana Balawegaya because majority of the significant people, none of them have left. So, and the party keeps, holds its fort at the moment. So, I don't think it worries at all. So, the reason now, Samagga Jana Balawegaya as a whole, if I'm to tell you, now, as my friend spoke, now Samagga Jana Balawegaya is, now the issue that we have at the moment is whether it's a coalition or whether it's a breakaway of the UNP. This is the question that I think people need to understand, and I think it's important that we clarify this. Samagga Jana Balawegaya was formed with the approval of the UNP, and it was approval of the working committee that it was formed. So it is not a different party, but I would say, as you initially said in your opening remarks, 88% of the 88 party members are there, who are the representatives of the UNP. So here we are, I think our overall objective of contesting in this election is to form that particular government who has his strong ties, who can be a challenge to the present president, I would say. That is the objective of coming and contesting. So even though the candidates leave or anything, the party is holding fort and they're strong enough to face the election, I would say.
Lihini, interestingly, it seems that these 88 members who have taken membership from the Samagga Jana Balawegaya are reluctant to leave the UNP Why is that?
See, it's like you're asking me whether I like my right hand or my left hand better. But I would say, though they are Samagi Jana Balawege, it is the UNP. And after the elections, I'm sure they will unite back again. So it is, we need
So
to
you mean to say that the UNP will not join hands with the government, but the UNP will join hands with the Samagi Jana Balawege
it is up to them.
subsequent to the 5th of August?
It is up to them. So, but Samagi Jana Balawege is quite firm on where they stand, on their policies, where they stand, because they are not a party that is here to perform deals or, they are here to represent the interests of the people and stand for the interests of the people. So that's one of the fundamental reasons why the Samagi Jana Balawege was formed, and because there was a mismatch in ideas within the leader of the United National Party and together with some Honorable Sajid Premadasa. So here they are very firm on the policy network, what they want to achieve, where they want to go. So on that basis only they are coming for this election on August 5th, and I'm sure that the way the present government is functioning, they will certainly be able to command vote at the coming election.
Thank you very much, Attorney at Law Lihini Fernando from the Samagi Jana Balawege. We now move our attention towards Dr. Anil Jayant Fernando, nationalist candidate of the National People's Power. Dr. Fernando, the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, as a standalone party at the 2015 elections, was able to gain approximately around 6 members in the parliament. However, when you look at the last presidential elections, they were not even able to gain 3% of the casted votes in favor of the NPP candidate, who is the JVP leader, Andrew Kumar Disarray. Do you think that the JVP made the wrong move to piggyback on the NPP again, yet again, at an election when they realized that they failed once? Your time starts now.
Okay, thank you very much. In fact, one thing we have to understand when we talk about politics, it cannot be belittled to a number explanation. And again, things depend, election results and all these things depends on depending contextual situation. Of course, the prevailing, like the previous presidential election, it was a tight fight between, I mean, to be honest, we have to accept that by that time between 2 camps. So whoever just goes to the polling station wants to, I mean, win his or her candidate or the favorites. In that case, of course, we didn't have a place. Before the election, we realized it. But in order to just bring our messages, to create a political platform where our policies to be discussed with the general public, so we candidate knowing that the result would be not that favorable. But of course, the result was something less than what we expected. So we have to admit that fact. So, however, the fact is this: as I just explained you, this number explanation will not prevail all the time. The politics is not number, so it is sociology, society. And we have our utmost rights and responsibilities to tell and reveal the general public. So your country, our country, is being ruled by these crooks for 72 years. They look at the balance sheet of our country. Now, just amid of this particular COVID-19 issue, country could not hold for 2 months. So on one hand, they simply just distributed 5,000 rupees, but within the same month, the government happened to impose lots of taxes. So in a way, they took it back. So government didn't have enough money. So what has happened over 72 years ruling? But unfortunately, just general public is in a situation, they could not understand this situation. To great extent, there are lots of things that we can talk about politics. Actually, this is a situation where the corrupt ruling. So in the past, when someone is corrupt, especially politician, we used to say that, okay, it's a thief or hora. Now they use in the political arena a very diplomatic term, kleptocrats. So even they are proud to be, just heard that, so define, interpret them as kleptocrats. So kleptocrats, what do they do? Basically, they join hands with all the professionals and network. So it's very difficult now. So that is the reason why, unfortunately, general public does not understand this reality. They are deceived by petty identity politics.
No, but
that is the reason.
Dr. Anil,
Just to add some one thing, otherwise I may forget. So therefore, why we come as national NPP, this is a broad alliances together with the JVP, of course, always with the hope that no matter whether, how people would react to this thing, it is not our target or objective to go to parliament or to get a position or any other thing, because going to the parliament or holding a position is not gaining something for us.
No, but
for
Dr.
NPP is something
Anil,
to hold responsibilities for the general public.
I need to interrupt you here.
Sure.
You speak about the numbers not playing an important role when it comes to election, and it's about the social element that comes into play. But you cannot forget the fact that a presidential election was held in Sri Lanka 8 months ago in November. And 8 months after, we're seeing a presidential election being held, a parliamentary election being held in Sri Lanka. So given that fact, doesn't this send shivers down the spine of the NPP, not being able to gain at least 4 seats at the next parliamentary elections?
Yeah, I didn't mean that numbers are not that important. Number is not the only decisive factor. Of course, if you just forecast based on the vote that we got from the presidential election, yes, that would be the result. But things have changed as of now. So even general public who voted for the present, the Gotabaya Rajapaksa, so its government has not voted, and they had a kind of expectation, so that the country would be ruled in this way, even within a very short period of time. So there are concerns, like you may see this thing, the public is a little bit shocked now, so where are we going?
Thank you very much, Dr. Anil Jayantha Fernando, nationalist candidate of the National People's Power. We now move our attention to Attorney at Law Kanishka Vitarana from the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. Kanishka, interestingly, I want to drag your attention to the Frontline Socialist Party protest march that was held recently, which was held in a contention manner. And this did raise an eyebrow in the manner in which the government handled the situation overall. However, the question to you is, the government decided to send the 30 police officers who were involved in this incident for quarantine purposes. However, the 24 members who were packed like sardine in a lorry were not sent to quarantine centers. So is this the way the government is trying to prove to the people that they are not suppressing the people's voices, even if actions are taken? That is not the government's policy? Seems a bit not right, isn't it?
No, we have to take, first of all, I should thank for inviting me for this program. Now, this is a way that handled the situation at the given moment. We have to go into the mind of the people who handle it, who are in charge of the situation. Now, if you take the bottom line, now what's the motive of the government? We have to first think what was the motive of the government. That is to prevent the people spreading of quarantine. So that's the bottom line. So for there are restrictions to gather and all sorts of things. So after this incident, the police was taken to quarantine. That is to avoid that, because you know what happened to the Navy. So
if that is the case, the 24 people who were arrested should also be sent to quarantine centers, Kanishka.
Yeah.
But they were not.
They were not. But
why is that?
No. You have to see this. No, you have to take it from this point of view. The government has not got rid of keeping them under surveillance. People, they are being under track, because from the very beginning of this process, you see, the government is keeping close eye with the people who got affected or who are exposed to this quarantine, this COVID-19 virus. But now, the government has already done its assessment with regard to the spreading of COVID-19. So under this system, they had their the government has taken the responsibility on that. It's taken the responsibility. It's acting on the advice of the expertise, the medical experts, and the people who are handling the defense. So it's a combination of all these factors. The government has taken the precaution necessary in the given situation. So from the outside, we will compare two situations. But the government is is under the management of the government.
No, but the question is not that, Kanishka. The question is, if the 30 police officers who was involved in the incident, including the OIC of Bambalipitiya, was sent to a quarantine center, why not the 24 members who were packed like sardines in lorries and sent to the police station and then to court subsequently, not sent to quarantine centers? That's the question. Very simple.
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The government is acting under the advice of the medical practitioners. Why? So that it would have, these people, though they are not, may not have sent to quarantine at the moment, but they keep record. They are keeping them under surveillance.
Why couldn't they do that with the police also? Keep them under surveillance.
So the police, what's wrong? I mean, you can't cover up one incident, nature of incident. You can't compare with another because because all this time the government was successful. When you compare the human
there's no question
successful. So I mean, you can't criticize the government or the state or the policy makers or decision makers has their own reasons for doing
Kanishka,
that.
there's no
reason. I mean, there's no ground for us to decide on speculation.
No, but there's no question about the manner in which the government has handled this entire process.
So this is also handled perfectly.
There's a lot of arguments back and forth about whether or not the government should have closed doors for tourists to arrive in the country. How better would it have handled the Navy problem? So those arguments kept keeping aside. The government has done a good job in terms of keeping the death toll under a very minimal, at around 10, as far as COVID-19 is concerned. That's commendable. But the question is government taking all these actions to show the people that the police acted based only on their whim and fancy? The government is not involved. This is not our decision that was taken, so hence let's penalize the police. Isn't that what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get the logic of your argument. I mean,
there is no logic. It's a very basic question. There is no logic in the question that I posed from you, Kanishka. The question was very simple. I'll pose it again so there is more clarity on that. Didn't the government take this action to prove that this was not a decision taken by the government to obstruct the frontline Socialist Party protesters, and henceforth they decided, okay, let's send the 30 police officers for quarantine centers and let's give a free hand to the frontline Socialist Party members so that we prove to the public this is not a decision taken by the government but the police force itself.
No, it's not. The police is under the control of the state. Police is part of the state.
So yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about it momentarily. I think I got the answer for the question, because if it is coming under the state, that means the actions that was taken by the police and the frontline Socialist Party meeting was the actions of the government.
It's action of the government.
Yeah.
But it's up to the. There would have been some mistake with regard to the decision makers, but we don't know, because when you look at from the point of view, the medical point of view, okay, we don't know how they evaluate the exposure. I mean, exposure to the virus and how they do the assessment with regard to the spreading of the COVID-19. They would have taken all these things into consideration, and the given situation, they have to handle that situation in the given situation.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
So they would have taken the most appropriate decision and the process of implementing that decision at the given time.
Thanks a lot, Attorney at Law Kanishka Vitarana, Sri Lanka, Podujana Peramana representative on the show tonight. But if you did look at the video footage, Kanishka, you would have very clearly noticed that the police was much more geared to face the situation than the frontline Socialist Party members who were in a civilian attire. at that point of time. However, we leave it to rest, at least for the moment. Let's open the floor for questions from our journalists. On to my immediate left is Nadim Majid, and on to my far left is Azra. So let's start off with Azra.
Thank you, Shamir. I would like to pose my very first question to Attorney at Law Lihini Fernando. Speaking about the opening remarks you just made, you told that eventually the Samagijana Balawege will end up joining with the United National Party. But you also mentioned that there are mismatches of ideas and certain political deals that they're engaging in, hence the deviation from the main party to contest the election separately. But if they're eventually going back to the same party, why the confusion? Isn't it like going back to the same relationship you thought was once toxic? What's the point contesting separately?
See, I don't think it was ever the intention to divide and conquer. The intention always was to contest together. But it came to a certain point that they couldn't hold on to it. Because we knew that there were many negotiations, there were several meetings, and even to this day, the Samagijana Balawege openly states that they were formed together with the blessing of the United National Party, that they were approved by the Working Committee of the United National Party, and Honorable Sajid Premadasa was given the head of the nominations board, and in fact, he was also given the right to appoint his own secretary. So here, there was consensus, and I can show you documents which I have, which was signed by the leader itself. So here again, I think what the political landscape right now in the country is focusing about this whole division between the Samagijana Balawege and the United National Party, and we are forgetting who our common enemy is, I would say. The enemy, not the enemy, I would say the parties together must start attacking the government, because nobody is highlighting the flaws of the government, and government is, I would say, they've been in power for 8 months, and they are messing up right royally, but nobody is talking about it. The focus has been here, either SJB or UNP. I think even the media stations, that is the attention that we need.
Lihini, the former opposition leader is the leader of the SJB right now. You say that the opposition is not doing its job in holding the government accountable. What is the SJB doing to hold the government accountable?
Not that I'm saying that they're not holding. We see many press conferences, they highlight the errors, but I think like the attention, the intention of the SLPP is to make sure that there is chaos within the UNP and the SJB, so that the attention is diverted there. But here, what we really need to focus is, what is the government right now doing? As now Mr. Kanishka said, the protests, how the police was handled, it's abysmal. I mean, the violation of the fundamental rights, the democracy, the right to protest, how that lady was handled, how she was basically thrown into the police truck. I mean, is this the way that you want law and order implemented in this country? Is this the way you want national security established in the country? Who is questioning? Yes, the state is questioning, but is the UNP questioning? Or together, shouldn't they question?
No, so I want to ask Mahesh the same question now. Lihini is pointing a direct finger at the UNP, saying that the UNP is not pointing a finger at the government. We saw even during the court cases that was filed against the holding of the election and the contesting of the president's decision not to convene the old parliament, the UNP was very silent. So Lihini does have a point, isn't it, that the UNP is somewhat holding a candle to the government?
First of all, being a media person, I know the value of the airtime. So I do not intend to draw into this struggle, because this is a struggle within the party. But I must tell that UNP.
But don't worry about airtime today, Mahesh, because this is the channel that we are talking about. We are talking about policies of your party. So don't worry about the airtime today. We are giving you an opportunity to counter the accusations that are leveled by Lihini. So you can take that airtime.
Of course.
For the better,
countering of allegations.
Articulate the UNP's position.
Of course, yes. Countering her allegations rather than allegations, maybe I would label it as her opinions. Rather than countering, I would like to explain the situation as of now. So once this COVID crisis broke, what we did as a party, a responsible party, was to support the government to tackle the COVID situation, to tackle the COVID debacle, because we understood COVID is a global crisis, that there was no room for us to survive. We being a small developing country with $90 billion US dollar economy. So what we did was In contrast to this government, when in opposition acted during the Zaharan's incident, what we did was support the government in the best interest of the people. That is why our leader said, please increase the PCR test. He had been mentioning it from the very, very beginning. And we said that when you get funds, when you get donations, divulge it to people, tell the people the status of the economy. That is what we did. Maybe if Lihini or someone says that we were not vociferous enough, I would not agree. We have been decent enough to highlight the real scenario, because we knew if we were going to topple the government or attack the government will take that revenge from people, which is what happening now. But we have been very, very firm in our stance in underpinning the requirement of the people. But if there is a thought that we have supported the government or we were going to make into a deal, I would like to mention here, Mr. Sajith Premadasa, being the opposition leader, was given the opposition leader's office to be used even after elections were called, as far as I know. And recently, Mr. Harin and Harsha De Silva mentioned that once the elections is over, Sajith Premadasa is the best prime minister to work with Gotabaya Rajapaksa, with His Excellency President Rajapaksa. But we have mentioned that we are even happy to be in the opposition, but that is not our intention. We want to gain power, but we want to get authentic power. We don't want a bona fide power. And having said that, what I would say is that UMP has always stood by the people of this country. Maybe that has deprived the party men. I agree to a certain extent. Why? Every time we took the government, there were a struggling economy. In 2001, there was economic recession. It was a minus economy. The country didn't have money to pay salaries, and we were suffering. So 2 years, what we did was we reformed the government, we reformed the country. But then President CBK, what she did was she took, in a very arbitrary manner, our government. What happened?
Very constitutional. It was not arbitrary. It was very constitutional.
Yeah, but it was not ethical. Then someone can argue.
It was not ethical. That's right, but not arbitrary, because it was constitutional. The president could do so in 2004.
Yes, could do so. But what I feel is in a democracy, it's not ethical. Why I say?
What was arbitrary is, Mahesh, when Maithripala Sirisena appointed Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa back then in that 50-day government, that was arbitrary.
Yeah, look at this.
That was unconstitutional.
I mean, look at this way. The two scenarios are similar for me, because the then president, who was SLFPer, and Maithripala Sirisena, who was also SLFPer, their only intention and purpose was to topple UMP government by hook or crook and gain power. That is why I said it's arbitrary for the public. Okay, constantly you can argue it's not arbitrary, this, that, but it is not in the best interest of the people. Right now, what is happening is similar. Now, 8 months ago, people voted for a president who's a non-political character. But today, what is happening? He's plagued with politicians, politicized processes. Let's start with distribution of 5,000 rupees. The people had to worship the politicians of this government to obtain 5,000.
So I want to cross-question Kanishka now. Kanishka, when you look at the activities of the UNP and the SJB, who has been helpful to the government so far?
No, I think they are in a mess. As far as the government is concerned, it's a government, okay? Government need not the help of anybody. We have the help of the people. Really? The people are helping us. We have the sanction of the people. We depend on the people. So they have their own dispute within themselves. So they are criticizing themselves. So the people will understand their nature, true nature, from their internal conflict.
So what you're trying to say is SJB and UNP are busy criticizing each other and not criticizing the government.
That's what I clearly said, that this should not be the focus. The focus should be them.
So there's no focus, because there's no reason for to focus, because the people have already decided what they have to do. People have already.
Mr. Vidana, just like you, because we're talking about the opposition's failure to criticize flaws in the government. You talk about recent developments, like the appointment of these two presidential task forces. Specifically, let's talk about the one on the Virtuous Society Presidential Task Force. Usually when you appoint a presidential task force, there is a specific task to be accomplished, like in the case of the task force on dengue. or on HIV/AIDS, or even with the COVID-19 pandemic. There's specific purpose. There are very clearly defined parameters in which they operate. A lot of members of the public have raised concerns about this specific task force being meant to institute a kind of police state in the country, because it's very vague. The Gazette notice on that task force is very vague, and it seems to give very broad powers to military officials. I think it's comprised almost entirely of military officials and the police. But there is no specific parameters, specific tasks set for them to accomplish. It's there's no sunset clause even. It's almost an indefinite task force that is meant to uphold a virtuous society. Virtuous by whose measurement?
Sorry?
Virtuous by whose measurement?
Yeah. Now it's up to the president has the authority, the constitutional authority, to appoint this task force. So that's the bottom line. He's acting under the constitution to achieve a purpose that he has for the benefit of the people. So
what's
simply,
the purpose? That's what
I mean, that is the president has would have advised the task force that given these objectives to task force to achieve them.
But what are the objectives?
So I mean,
the objectives have not been spelled out in the Gazette notice. What are the objectives of this task force?
So I mean, if it's not specified, they would have specified in the due course. I mean, like, I mean.
But I was just telling Mr. Vidhan, usually when you appoint a task force, there is a specific purpose, a specific goal to be accomplished. Either the eradication of dengue, tackling the COVID-19 pandemic.
So you're referring to the task force in the East for a
No, I'm talking about this virtuous society task force.
So it's for the benefit of the society, no?
What virtuous by what measure? Virtuous is a very vague term.
So I mean, if it's vague, it would have been specified by the president in the due course. So we'll wait and see. So the task force have not yet to start their functions, no? So we'll wait and see. Don't rush to the city. So they are given a specific time, specific period. We'll wait and see how it would function.
Mr. Vidhan, over the past several years, not just in Sri Lanka, over the past several months actually, not just in Sri Lanka but globally, there have been a lot of concerns that have been raised by people around the world regarding police states, excessive use of force by police. And this was raised in Sri Lanka by one of the SLPP's former MPs and current candidate, Ms. Nama Rajapaksa, as well, who said that, you know, the actions of several police officers are tainting the good work that is being done by police overall. He was referring to, I believe, the assault on the autistic child in Alutkama and other incidents as well. I'm not sure if it included the FSP incident, but you can see the many incidents of. So as a member of the public, I'm rightly concerned by when we see incidents like this happening and the president appointing a virtuous society task force, which, when you read the language in that Gazette notice, it does send a shiver down your spine, doesn't it?
Sorry?
It does send a shiver down your spine. There is a chill. You feel a chill that this is something that is meant to silence dissent.
That is, you're giving the impression that we are going to a police state or something like that.
Yeah.
No, wrong. It's not. So these are comprising of the citizens of the country.
No,
Okay.
these are that's wrong. I think you made a
Mr. Vitandri, there needs to be a specific purpose.
I think that this committee comprises of military personnel.
So I mean, what's the least qualification? Now, I mean, as far as the democracy is concerned, democracies prevail. If the wishes of the people are being manifested and materialized through the system of the government, the persons who are, and if the president and the authorities selecting the best suitable person, he happens to be the military or military trained people. In other words, a person who's a military is a more disciplined person, maybe, or more experienced person to handle a situation,
So
react to a situation.
Yeah,
so they are trained to react to a situation.
Mr. Vitandri, I think you're doing a great disservice to the Sri Lanka Police Department and the administrative, the civil service, by saying that they don't have the experience or the training.
Who don't have experience? That is the president.
Because none of them are in this task force. The task force is made up entirely educators, academics, the intelligentsia of the country. you're doing a disservice to them by saying that it is only the military that can do this, and that
No,
none of
I
these other
don't
people
say
can do
that it's only the military.
Lawyers, legal
I say
professionals.
the military people are trained to do to achieve a task that's a different discipline. They have built up a different discipline to take decisions and implement it. Those are different from the way the civil servants are.
As a lawyer, do you feel that there should be any legal professionals in this, like lawyers, judges, even if a magistrate that the judicial service commission could have it?
I mean, you are not. This is the way that you look at it from a partially, not fairly, because
But Mr. Itarana, if they spelled out what it is that they were going to do, if they spelled it out that this is the purpose, then we can look at it. The problem is right now you have to speculate because they have been given a very vague mandate, a very overarchingly vague mandate. I mean, there is no specific purpose.
This question is based on some hypothesis, on imagination. It is not. I mean, can you prove there's a breach of democracy, violation of human rights?
No, the president has the right to appoint a task force.
All the measures are taken by the government in the interest of the people. And the best way.
But Mr. Vitarana, this is my question. Virtuousness by whose measure?
This is based on a speculation. Okay, it
is not speculation. It says virtuous society. Virtuousness by whose measure? Who's going to measure the virtuousness of this?
That is itself. The term itself has a definition on its own. So I mean,
the definition is very vague.
So that is the way you see. But the task force would have been specified.
What is the specific definition?
So the task force would have been specified with their objectives.
It's not. It's not there in the Gazette.
So I mean, when they are functioning, they will. You know, I mean, when in law also, sometimes when you give the law a statute, an objective. If it covers a very wide range, you give interpretations which can be applied to a given situation. So it will be like that.
Let's hear what Dr. Anil also has to say, because he's been silent for some time with regard to this task force that has been established and the task force that has been established under the guidance of Basil Rajapaksa. The NPP has been quite silent about this task force that has been established, as Nadim correctly pointed out. What is the position of the NPP on the recently established task force and somewhat of a militarization of the state affairs?
Yeah, of course. What just you just praise, like point out the virtue of society concept or any task force. Of course, there should be a very spelled out objectives to be achieved, very short term. Of course, with respect to this particular committee, task force appointed, we don't see such clear objective. It looks like, yes, even like if you want, we can interpret it in this way. If the objective is hidden, we do not know. Instead of just achieving the virtues of society, or if you want to suppress general public, in that sense, this task force would be ideal.
Right.
So actually, we do not have only any criticism about this task force, even other task force as well. All the time, what we see, the objectives, what is simply saying, in this particular case, there is no objective, in others as well. So covering to petty objectives or maybe nice slogans and wordings, actually, they are doing something which is really detrimental to the general public. Actually, whatever the task force appointed by the government, it should be in the best interest of the general public. Because you are there to serve the general public interest.
Do you think, Dr. Anil, that we are sliding towards a dictatorial rule in the country?
It looks like, it depends. We can't say categorically that they are just slowly, like indications are there, symptoms are there.
No, because even during the recent past, just the last 1 week alone, when you take a look at it, you see the death of that individual who was killed,
to be a
beaten to death near the Mirhana police station. Then you saw the death of the columnist of the Colombo Telegraph, who was very vocal about the Airbus deal. under mysterious conditions, his death. Then the protest march that was held and the crowd which was dispersed in Kolpiti opposite the US Embassy in Colombo. So all these signals are not good signals for a healthy democracy, isn't it?
Exactly. So I agree with you that, so symptoms are there, but finally, as I just told you, it depends on, there are two camps. From the politician side, of course, when if they do not want to bring the prosperity to the general public, to uphold the public interest, so they may engage in different ways and means of achieving their personal interest, showing the public interest. So therefore, suppression is one of the tools. Of course, they would bring it, but it is not that easy if the general public is aware of it. But unfortunately, as of now, general public is also suppressed and deceived, and they take maybe good things in a wrong meaning. For example, I don't know, so it was just mentioned, disciplined society. What is meant by disciplined society? So what we want, it is interpretative, highly subjective. So from military perspective or any other person's perspective, discipline may be okay. Just stop, do that, go there. So ordering, commanding would be perceived as discipline. If the general public also perceive, yes, we need something like discipline like this, so it would be disastrous, because of course the rulers would, when they are, as I just mentioned, kleptocrats, they join hand with all these people, and finally they try to maximize their own utility, own personal interest at the expense of general public. But it is the utmost task and the responsibility of the general public, and again, as a broader political alliance, National People's Power, we foresee all these things. So that is why we are just telling and revealing, you need to come out from your cage. As long as you are within that particular box, so you would be given these lessons saying that discipline or achievement, virtue of society is nice words. So that would be really, really dangerous. Otherwise, it would be a matter of time when we are going to pay the price. Sooner or later, we would pay the price. In fact, if you really want to have a society in which we all nationals, irrespective of any petty politics or different identities, to live in harmony, in peace, in prosperity, actually we need to talk about the democracies. We need to talk about the humanities. We need to talk about the respect. We need to talk about the society. We need to talk about the environment. So if we can come out with a ruling, with such policies, then only we can do these things. So we have a very strong belief and the confidence that we have fielded candidates with such qualities to tackle this issue.
Are you confident that these candidates that you have fielded with these qualities will be given an opportunity to represent in Parliament? For example, you're in the national list of the NPP.
Yes.
Are you not afraid that, or are you not concerned that, as the JVP did in 2015, that they will sideline national list candidates to include candidates who were defeated at the election?
No, I don't think. Just to make a small correction, so that is your interpretation. Actually, it is an action, so it is seen that JVP just appointed someone instead of Maya Dune. Actually, what happened, because we had discussions when we formed this particular broad alliance, NPP, actually Maya Dune was appointed. He rejected, he didn't want to be an MP on the ground that he said that I cannot accept this position, I don't have any moral right, so the obligation, because adequate votes are not given. But anyway, so that is the correction.
If you're not going to accept the position, why would you get on the national list?
No, that is maybe that person's interpretation, so what I'm telling. So if you want, you can question Maya Dune and get the truth. But
Dr.
from my side, just answering to your question, of course, we have an assurance. Not only the national list MPs, because national list is not, the opportunities are not given according to the alphabetical order, because that is the alphabetical order is 1, 2, 3. It doesn't mean that the number 1 should be appointed. It would be decided collectively with the consent of all the parties in NPP. Once it is decided, so that wouldn't be a problem, appointing MPs through national list. Apart from the national list, so there is another rumor or suspicion or susceptible situation. How about the candidates who have been fielded in case if they just get preferential votes? So there is no problem, because we have given the assurance, even we have discussed all those things. Who would be going to the Parliament would be the candidates who would get the highest preferential votes.
I need to pose a question
Sure.
to Mahesh, but I want to give Azra an opportunity to pose a question to either the three men or the ladies. So I'll give.
I was thinking I'll speak to Mahesh now.
Yeah.
Mahesh, now, seems like everyone is pointing fingers at each other, saying you did this, you did that, but we're forgetting something. We're forgetting about the people of this country. They don't understand these complicated issues that you and I are talking about. They are worrying about their daily survival. What are you going to do? I mean, are we just, you said we will be paying a price someday and we will eventually, you know, we are expecting things to happen. Isn't it time that we start being proactive and not reactive? We have gone through so many things. We know what's coming. We know what to expect. Why aren't we doing anything about it?
Asra, I'll start with a little answer to Mr. Kalishka Vitarana's answer. He said, we don't want support from anybody. Now, that is a serious blow to democracy in this country. Whether you are in power, whether you are...
No. I said we need the support of the people only.
Yeah, but
The people are
Mr. Vitarana,
supporting
people
us.
means we represent people. If I go to parliament, I represent my candidate people. So this is
people are supporting us.
So
I mean,
so you don't-
I said
that means you don't want parliament support.
we are not seeking the benefit of your internal conflict.
No.
We get the support of, so the
there's-
question was
there's-
that
there's-
whether
there's no
we are
internal-
seeking we are looking.
There's no
each in-
conflict as such. Please
but
let me answer.
there's a conflict. You go to the papers, daily papers. Your views of the.
I'm a media person, Mr. Vitana, so I know how the papers, TV, radio all
So
work.
then,
right?
that goes to the people.
No, see,
what carries by the
answer you.
people
So
and media?
you said we don't want support from y'all. That's what you implied.
Yeah,
Our
your
internal
conflict,
internal politics, we will sort it out. We'll sort it out.
Shall we
right?
talk about the
So
people?
what I'm trying to say
you're
is like, okay,
performing in
that's
front of the people.
No, that's yes.
Sir, the conflict is before the people.
So-
It's a matter of the people perceive that.
Yeah, Mahesh, you can continue. Yes.
So I said, if someone says we don't want the support of the opposition, that is a blow to democracy. 225 people are appointed by the people of this country to represent them, whether you are in government or whether you are in the opposition. I, as a newcomer, would like to be in opposition because I can be more vociferous. I can really work for the people because I will not be bound by government policies. I can work for people. So as an amateur, a junior, if I get a chance, I would like to be in the opposition. That's my personal view. And Mr. Kanishka, to Majid's answer about this task force, he said, yes, gazetted with no objective. Now, Asha, this is the problem with us. In this country, people implement politically tainted projects with no objectives. I'll give you a good example.
No, I didn't say that. I say it's wide objective.
Majid, you said the gazetted.
The question was with no objectives. I say it's not.
There's no specific objective.
It's so wide
That's what I'm
enough
saying.
to address so many issues. That's
So
what I'm saying.
I'll give one example. Okay, when this COVID debacle started, government promised various benefit packages from 5,000 to let's go to the third highest foreign exchange earner, which is the tourism. There was no objective. There was no assessment. They said, okay, we are giving 6 months moratorium for loans, 6 months moratorium for vehicles, 6 months moratorium for travel agents and so on and so forth. But what we said was, do an economic assessment. Any government in power is bound to do that, especially in the absence of a parliament. We said, please carry out economic assessment and pronounce, say what you can do. But today what has happened? Entire tourism sector is ailing. Why? Government made a popular statement and said, hey, look, we will give you 4% loan at 4% for working capital. We will give salaries for the employees of travel agents. Okay, I'll be very frank. I'm involved in travel trade too. I'm a CEO of a travel company. If I'm selected and if the parliament law says that you can't be the CEO of that company, I will resign from that company. I'm a very transparent, accountable person. So for me, to pay my people, okay, my choice of going to nomination, taking nominations and contesting to parliament doesn't mean 12 people who are working for me should suffer, no. So that's one example. So government doesn't have objectives. Astra, this is what has happened. We are only good at blame game, right? What we need is new blood, new thinking, and tell the people the truth. For this tourism matter, Majid,
Yeah.
excuse me, quick. For this matter, if I was in parliament, I would say, boss, let's say, okay, president, whoever, boss, there's something called TDL, Tourism Development Levy, 994, according to my figures. 994 travel agents are registered with them. they are paying TDL. Let's take 2 billion of that. We'll pay first some working capital for registered travel agents. Isn't it practical? Can't you formulate objective? That is what people expect, Asra. In our country, with no objective, we always bring certain solutions which are not justified.
So didn't the UNP let government do the exact same thing in the aftermath of the Easter attacks? Was there an economic assessment when you were giving concessionary loan rates, especially for the tourism sector, which was hit hard by the Easter attacks? What was it that the UNP government did? Why didn't they take the tourism development levy, those funds, to help the people who were struggling then? Because this is the tourism sector for the past 2 years now has been struggling because of the Easter attacks followed by the double whammy.
Very interesting, right? I'll be very honest. The two scenarios are different, right? It's different. No, Zaharan's attack took place one day, damage occurred. We agree, but COVID is different. It's a global issue. But in that context, no one talks about this. Yahapalana government could catch, in simple language, catch or apprehend the culprits within 24 to 48 hours. And within 3 weeks, we opened up the economy, we resurrected the economy. True tourism was hit back, but from June, if you look at the arrivals of SLTD, I can show now, right? There was no hit as such. But go to 2018, 52 days of country's calendar was erased by one man's foolish, stupid decision.
No, Mahesh, I want to interrupt you for a second here. Now, you spoke about politically tainted projects. Are you pointing the finger at the government?
Yes, what I see right now, the politically tainted...
I can give you a classic example. Let's revisit the UNP government which was in power. The central bank bond controversy that took place, the tabs mafia that took place. Even today we saw the former Education Minister Akaliviraj Karyavasam speaking on the media saying it's still important to give tabs. That was sanctioned by him to A-level students at least. So if politically tainted projects, if that is what we are talking about, both sides on the divide are responsible for such projects in the recent past. If that's the case, all these people should be banished from parliament. A new set of people, as you mentioned before, a clarion call for a new set of people should be appointed to parliament, isn't it?
Of course. First part of my answer, I was not an MP, I was not a member of parliament, I was not in the 8th parliament, so that it's not right for me to, my brother, answer your question about bonds and tabs. Right? But I have a fair understanding of what all happened. Here, what the point I brought up...
But you're contesting from that political party.
No, you can't. You have to answer it.
Yeah, you're contesting from that political party.
No, I was not in that.
You can't absolve yourself from that.
No, I'm not absolving in that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not being an expert on bonds or expert on tabs. I wouldn't like to discuss it, but I know there's a document called Forensic Audit of the Central Bank. If any party wants to apprehend or point the finger at any person, the best would be the government to make that forensic audit public and initiate the process. It won't happen, Charmin, because in this country, you and I are...
No, but you can't say that because you are not an MP in the old parliament that you want to absolve yourself from a problem at hand.
No, I'm not absolving.
Because you are contesting from that political party.
So
that's the UNP.
So what I'm saying is...
And that responsibility goes to Lihini as well. Lihini is not contesting.
And
I won't come back to you. I'll come back to you in a minute.
Yeah.
But
so what I meant was, it is not right for me to comment on it from a political perspective. And another fact is that this bond issue is now before the law.
If someone poses you a question, Mahesh, let's forget about all this. If someone does pose a question to you, Mahesh, you were a journalist in the country. How did you side with a political party which is corrupt? What is going to be your answer?
Which is corrupt. What are the corruptions?
I just mentioned to you the central bank bond controversy, the tabs mafia, the bond controversy did not happen just once, the central highway project that took place. I can name a few if you want me to go on about it. I think this time space won't be enough. So you can now explain. If someone did ask you, the question is very simple.
Yes.
If someone did ask you, Mahesh, you were a journalist in Sri Lanka, and why did you side a corrupt political party? What would be your answer? I need to go to Lihini as well.
There are corrupt people in all political parties. My answer, there are corrupt people in all political parties. There are good people in all political parties. Unfortunately, all corrupt people work in hand-in-glove situation. If you look at the entire bond fiasco 2015 and before that, forensic audit, Chamin, clearly spells out. And the people who are named there in a certain, I would call it a mafia. They work together. Whoever who is in power, they are so strong. This is what people should understand.
So why did you side with such a political party?
No, that political party is not accused of that. And I should not comment on that because this issue is in front of the law, in front of the court. So it is sub judice. So I should not comment on that.
Right, so I need to speak to Lihini as well. Lihini, what is your opinion with regard to this?
See, Shamir, what we fail as a nation is to say what is right. When it's right, you should say it's right. When it's wrong, you should say wrong. But we as politicians and as general public, we patronize the wrong and we try to justify. That's why we as a country, 70 years after independence, we are in this still sorry state is because of that. My personal opinion, if you ask me about the bond scam, I would say if it's wrong, the wrongful people should be perpetrated. This government came into power. One of their key fundamental factors when they came, they said that they will take the people who are responsible to the bond scam and that they will file the cases and they will take them to task. But it hasn't happened to date. So if anybody is found wrong in the eyes of the law, they should be perpetrated. That is the notion that we need to have in this country. Young politicians, I don't think should. I think people who are coming to parliament should not justify this because these politicians.
Lihini, yes. I did not justify Lihini. What I said was since I was not in that parliament, I cannot.
No, but we can't say because if we side with a particular party, there are certain what do you say baggages that we bring along. So you can't deny that fact.
No, Lihini, I did not deny that it's a scam or it's a corrupt act of issuing of government bonds. I agree with that. But why I would not comment on that as a journalist, you rightly said, Charmin, I have written columns on this. I know all sides of it. If you can give me a guarantee of my life, bring me on another day, I can divulge many things.
Can I add this? One of the key fundamentals of when Sajid Premadasa, when he came, in his election manifesto, he said zero tolerance for corruption. So that is one of the things. Corruption in this country has crippled the economy. Corruption in this country, year and year, government to government has crippled the lives of these people. So this needs to end at some point. And these leaders in this country and even the general public needs to identify who the corrupt leaders are, who are the deal makers, who are the people who are actually representing the interests of the people. And we need to elect the right people. It's no point saying, you know...
But Leni, you speak about being vocal about corruption and so on and so forth. And you come out very confidently as a lady about how important that Sri Lanka should be corruption-free.
Yes.
However, you would agree if I say that when the central bank bond controversy took place, your leader now, the leader of the Samaga Jana Balawega, Sajid Premadasa, was very silent and did not utter a word in parliament with regard to the bond scam that took place. And he has been very silent on many national issues. Only after his candidacy was announced as the presidential campaign runner for the symbol of the swan, did he become more vociferous about national issues.
Yes.
So you can't have faith in a leader like that.
No, I disagree with you there. If you look at his election manifestos, if you listen to his speeches on what he has spoken and what he speaks right now, how he talks of corruption.
No, I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about the past.
So yes, maybe he didn't speak at that point, but he's speaking right now. He's coming forward. He says, if I become the Prime Minister of this country, I will bring these people to task. So he's saying, so right, everybody has baggage, but doesn't mean that, they are going to continue. If there's a leader who is going to promise and he's going to say it with conviction, why not we believe?
So before going for a short commercial break, I have a question for Dr. Anil Jayant Fernando. Dr. Anil, you say that it's very important to have people who are educated, who are professionals in their own field, and that is what the NPP is bringing to the table. Am I right?
To some extent, yes.
Okay. So why must people vote for the NPP if that's the case, and why mustn't they vote for the Viat Maga movement? that is, you have a few people who are representing the Sri Lanka Puljana Peramuna at the next election. Why mustn't they vote for them? Because already in the people's mindset, there are only 3 main political parties who are in the forefront. I don't want to mention. But when you go to vote, you only have a few members in your mindset. So I don't want to even say who they are because it's going to be very biased towards a political party. Why must they vote for the NPP?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. The reason is this. Even now, it is revealed to some extent from our discussion as well, today's discussion. Even media and in political discourses and all places, it is now revealed. You can think of the outcome, some idea about the outcome of this particular election. After the election, it is more likely that all those parties are going to join hands, either that way or this way. It is quite possible. Why? The reason is they are ready, no matter whether they take what camp, they are ready to continue with the same economic model. This is on one hand corrupt, and on the other hand actually follows the wrong economic policy. It makes only handful of people rich. So that is one of the reasons, like their main policies are on the wrong path. And why? I'm coming to your question. So with respect to maybe intellectuals or educated or professionals, why they shouldn't be selected? On one hand, actually, the possibilities for them to be elected is also less. Why? In all those parties, the meantime, the professionals, of course, if professionals come from all the parties, that is good. That also we wish if they can fill the parliament with them. But it is practically, it is unlikely that they would come. Why? The same parties. I'm going to just Can I explain? Yeah. So it is unlikely they would come, but unlikely. Chances are very less. Why? The same parties, there are, we know, the present politicians, how they have just gained the popularity and they work with the community. So once you cast the vote, it is not casting vote to that particular professional. You are casting the vote to the party. So then based on the total number of votes, so your number of MPs would be decided. What happens in the end? So even with the vote that you cast for so-called professional or educated, with a good hope that they can do something, actually there would be chances for old corrupt people to go to parliament.
But Fernando, doesn't your party have the same problem? Because despite the involvement of organizations like your own, the National Intellectuals Organization, and other groups that have come together to form this NPP, really the major political driver there is the JVP. And the JVP, as Lihini was mentioning earlier about political baggage, has its own baggage with its own sort of entrenched systems. So, I mean, intellectuals on the other side can argue that, okay, maybe our economic model makes some people rich, but your economic model is going to keep everyone poor.
No, this is so good. Like it is like this. Of course, JVP is the apparent and seen political party, but in our it's a broader front. What we believe. So all are equally qualified enough and competent enough to carry out our policies. That is why we said that. So you have the chance, because we don't have such people like, if you can find a single person who could be accused of corruption or any other briberies or malpractice, bad practices. So we are ready. I mean, we can't stay with the NPP.
There are no chances.
There are no chances.
Justified. Nobody has the guts to say, if you're wrong, you're wrong.
I must answer. They must give me time, because you put a question which is not fair. The context of the question. I mean, you ask my friends that whether we are heading to a dictatorial state. That question itself, and you have come up with some examples. For example, the task, the death at the investment company, and death of another columnist in and so forth. So I mean, you take these incidents and you are trying. My view is to generalize, but see, with that you can't say that we are going for a dictatorial. It's a dictatorship. See, take the other side of the picture. We are the government insisting on elections. So when we are going for election, there are so many obstructions by these people in the Supreme Court also to stop the elections. So isn't it a democratic move? So when you take
we never want to stop elections.
disagree.
What
no,
what
no,
we said
no.
was
The government
what we said
insisted
was
on
don't have
democracy.
elections
No, no,
in
let me finish.
Mr. Vitana, please, please
No,
do not plant wrong
It
ideas. We all said
is this government which is insisting on democracy.
No, you
We
would
are
have
the
an election
people,
on June
the
20th
government
amidst the
insisted
COVID.
on giving economic concessions to the people. Now, my friend is, the UMPs are now objecting to that. We are going ahead
No, we
with
are not
objecting.
objecting. We are saying
There's a
don't lie.
circular central
Give
bank has
the
come up
concession.
with concessions for the COVID-affected people. That is democracy. And I've taken out
It's
the
a
economic
responsibility
concessions.
of the government to give
that is-
concessions. That's why
this
you are
is-
elected and that's
it
why
is
you are
not,
in the
Mr.
my
Vitana.
point is, this government is against dictatorship. This government is heading to the democracy, giving people right. For example, the economic policy, people-centric economic is the resources, the ownership of resources are with the people. It's a people. No. People-centered centric economic is, that is, the people are the owners of the resources, people are the owners, beneficiaries of the economy.
So I need to
it
go
is
for-
towards a democracy that we are going to, they are going to uphold the democracy.
Right.
My concern is this, the way you put the question, whether we are going to dictatorship, and the examples you have they have put forward is not, cannot be generalized as that, because when you get the broader picture, for example, we handled the COVID incident, and that is that we recognize we want to try to uphold the right to live of the people compared to the world, other countries.
Didn't opposition support
the right to live.
Mr. Vitana, simple question. Didn't opposition support the government to tackle the COVID issue? Let's be very frank.
The opposition is already criticizing. And also my friend says that we are not getting the support of the opposition is there, but earlier your question was whether we are going to get benefited from this internal conflict with these two parties. I say we need not get, we are not seeking the benefit of that, because we are getting the support of the people directly.
Shamir.
And also we are active with the objective.
Let's give an opportunity to Lehini to respond, and I want to give an opportunity to Mahesh also to respond, because
so I mean,
no, I'll get back to. I'll before I go in for a short commercial break.
We are moving to a democracy. More democracy.
Before going for a short commercial break, I will give you an opportunity to voice your concerns as well. But quickly, Lehini,
a country should run on a system. I will ask you this question. Tomorrow, if Gotabaya Rajapaksa is not there, will the system collapse? Is he building the system or is he crippling the system? Now, you look at this task force. He's appointing military officials. Now, what is happening to the administrative service of this country? What about the circulars? Now, everything is not operating. It's on ad hoc decision making. Can a country run like this? Now, these are the fundamental flaws. If you are talking of a disciplined society, you can't just plug and play and, fix problems. Then tomorrow when this person is not there, what is going to happen? Good example. You take who has the authority to pass funds? The constitution says the powers with regards to finances are rest with the parliament. Article 148 of the Constitution. But now they were in power when they were summoned the Parliament. They used the Article 150 subsection 3. They were printing money. There was no vote on account that was passed. So they were using the government money at their whims and fancies. Now see, this is crippling the entire system of the country. Now, and let me also talk about now when Gotabaya Rajapaksa came in, he came with his 10 principles saying how he will build a disciplined society, how he will build a system, a meritocratic system, the e-governance system. Now 8 months down the line, there is nothing, absolute no sense of it. And here we see, in relation to that, we see the country, the system is failing. He is appointing different people to different positions he wants. It's ad hoc decision making.
I deny that. This is the most disciplined thing
I'll
that
give
we
you an
experience.
Let's listen to
there's nothing, no collapse of the government
system. Let's listen to
system.
Mahesh, and then I'll give you an opportunity.
Killing people in broad daylight, what is the discipline?
Under the argument on 153,
I'll come back to you,
days in Supreme Court that has been decided.
Mahesh, do you want to add something to what Kanishka said? Because
yes,
I have to give you an opportunity
what would have probably provoked Mr. Vitana is that I mentioned that he implied government doesn't want support from other parties. That is what I
conflicts of other parties.
That's what I fathomed. But what I say is that government is in a journey which is based on ad hoc decisions. I took trouble trade only as an example. Government announced 4% loan scheme. I bet to my life, to date, 1% of the SMEs have not got these loans. But the big business tycoons have got this money. Let's check with banks. They have released this to big business tycoons. This is unfair. Why? They only want to benefit their business mafia. When Mr. Gotabaya was appointed, people did not ask to cut the taxes. What happened? They took an ad hoc decision. 20% of the government revenue dwindled by January, which is about 600 billion. Then this unfortunate situation occurred. So these are ad hoc decisions to please their henchmen.
So there's no collapse in the government anyway. The government is stable.
So policing henchmen. Even if UNP government does that, if I'm in parliament, I'll be against that because I stand for people. I know how the stock market works. I know how the foreign exchange market works. I know how this mafia works. Maybe Mr. Vitana, Lihini, none of us are part of it. This is something that we need to reveal to the people. It is far bigger than terrorists. They can cripple the economy over one night decision. Maybe even Mr. Rajapaksa finds it difficult to run the country. So that is what, Ms. Vitana, I wanted to highlight. Let's join our hands for the best interest of the country. Let's expose the real culprits, real crooks of this country. I mean, I know
totally, I agree. The government is always.
I have a question here. When you say join hands,
does
that mean that the UNP wants to join hands with the government?
No. I said join hands to expose the crooks. Right. Because see, I mean, now I was a journalist. No, okay, I am an entrepreneur, journalist. Now I got into politics. As I said, there is a mafia which is part of media, business, civil society. That mafia is far worse than terrorists. This is something that Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa tries to tackle, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa tries to tackle, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe tries to tackle, even Mr. Premadas will also have to tackle. This is
always
beyond.
Join hands with everybody to tackle all these problems.
But you said you don't need our support, no?
No, that is the conflict between you two. That is a different, very narrow, specific question that I answered. But when it comes to parliament,
our interest and heart is the same, and we represent.
No, that is a very specific, narrowed down question that I answered.
So we have to go in for a short commercial break. When we come back, we speak more about policy and the direction in which this country should be led in the next few years. All this and more after this short commercial break. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. We will be right back.
Come on. Look up. මයිමෙන් අපි ගැනත් පොඩ්ඩක් කියන්නකෝ. එතකොටනේ රටම අපි ගැන දැනගන්නේ.
මයිම හැමදාම හැමදේම දිනපතා රාත්‍රී 7:30ට.
Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. I want to give an opportunity to Azra to pose some questions from our three gentlemen and the lady. If you may, you can probably pose a question to Lihini. So we have a bit of gender balance on the show as well, Azra.
Thank you, Shamir. Speaking of gender balance, Lihini, we have noticed less women participation in the political arena. Mahesh was a journalist and now he's in the political arena. If I want to join, it's quite demotivating to see less women in the force. Why is that?
Yeah, actually, it's a question. I would say the UNP government brought in the 25% quota for the 2018 local government election, which enabled women to come in. I think that's a significant step. So that's why people like me are also in politics. But I think women need to come to the center stage, and also political parties need to give nominations to the women.
Is it difficult to survive?
That is, actually, I would say it is quite challenging in the present context, because you are I don't want to say it, but you are battling in a man's world, and the politics, the political scenario, it's very quite demanding. So when it comes to a woman has to play multiple roles. But that doesn't mean that a woman is incapable. If you look at the leaders like Jacinta Ardern in New Zealand, how she handled it, how the maturity. So there are quite capable women in Sri Lanka as well. Like if you take the corporate sector, so many women are there. But women don't want to come into politics, because this whole political system in this country is designed in such a way that it is only a certain set of people that can come and stay. But I think the legislature should be defined in certain way to bring in more people into it. You know, for example, today the Samagi Jana Balawegaya launched its Samagi Taruna Balawegaya. And on that, in their policy framework, one of the key things that they are saying is that they make 25% quota for youth in the next coming provincial council and all elections. They make it mandatory that they will give nominations to 25% of the percent for the youth, as well as 25% for women. So these are very significant steps. This is the thing that was launched together with the policy framework. So these are significant steps, and that is one of the things. And also, I think the legislature also needs to be changed to a certain extent to enable new entrants to come into the political framework. Now, one of the things that I personally advocate is this whole campaign financing act. Now, if a campaign financing act can be brought in, it will regulate the amount of money that a political candidate can spend. So now one of the things we know now, Sri Lanka is common for welfare politics. Now we see in today's context that people who are contesting are going around distributing rice bags to umbrellas to caps to everything. So they are trying to give something and take something. But by doing this, are we electing the right people? Because what is the role of a politician? What is the role of a parliamentarian? Nobody talks there. A parliamentarian is there to make policy decisions. They need to read the legislature. They need to understand. Now, when you do welfare politics, when you distribute things and people who come in, so the drug dealers, the drug peddlers, every Tom, Dick and Harry gets into parliament, is because of this present system. That's why we're saying bring in regulations like the Campaign Financing Act, where you put a curtail to it.
So I want to pose a question to Dr. Anil Jayanta, and then Mahesh, and then come to Kanishka, and then we will probably wrap tonight's show. So the question to Dr. Anil Jayanta, I want to follow up on a question that Nadim posed to you earlier about baggage the JVP is carrying. One businessman in Sri Lanka who's embroiled in a lot of controversy says that the JVP style of ransom taking is like Pablo Escobar's ransom taking. So he made this social media campaign during the last few weeks. What do you have to say about such allegations leveled at the JVP, and now indirectly the NPP is involved in this entire process?
Yeah, so that is an allegation level against, like, say, okay, for the time being, assume that it is true. If it is true, what is the right thing that the person who has that information that he has asked for ransom to do? To ask Andhra Kumar to come for the debate, or to go to the bribery and corruption the commission and take legal action against? Because if he has, according to the law of tort, even if you have some information about the wrong practices, wrongdoing about somebody, if you just try to play with that information, it is really wrong. So with our information, with our understanding, the way we work with them, we have 100% assurance that not only JVP leader, and other people would not be or are not in such a position of taking ransom. If they want to take ransom or take bribes or money and have their personal lives in that way, they can easily do. But so now actually we have taken a really hard course, difficult task. Actually we vehemently attack this system, wrong system. I'll just explain one thing to understand. Sometimes general public may not understand this thing. With reference to this bond scam, they utilized EPF in such a shrewd manner. They used a particular agreement called share buyback agreement, where what they did was because general public doesn't know about these things. They can't understand. In that share buyback agreement, shares of Sri Lankan catering were issued to Sri Lankan Airlines free of charge. And with the agreement that we would buy back 40% of shares. Then what happened? So when they bought back 40% of shares, then Sri Lankan catering will have to pay 4 billion. Then they look at the books and say that, hey, in our books, you owe Sri Lankan Airlines owe 4 billion to Sri Lankan catering. Then you better set off.
Right.
Actually, what they did was, they simply used these techniques to hide the writing of bad debts. I'm just telling you, just to conclude. And so this is the situation. I mean, in the country, actually, NPP, we strongly take a position that our members are not corrupt. We do not take bribes or ransom. Right. Actually, we vehemently fight against this. That is why these allegations and charges are coming to it. So we are ready to face any allegation if there are. Just take legal action. Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anil. I have a question for Mahesh Saranayake, a candidate of the United National Party. Mahesh, during your opening statement, you are very clear and articulating about the fact that it's important to have new members in Parliament, and that's what the UNP has done with its nomination list, and that is one of the reasons that an individual like you will be contesting the upcoming elections from the Kandy district, and you are very clear about that. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I happen to just run through the list of the people who have been given nominations from the UNP this time around. So one of them that caught my eye was this individual who was rejected from the UPFA nomination list in the 2015 election, been given nominations from the UNP. If you want me to be more precise, I could probably tell you the name. But is that enough, or you want me to be more precise with the person who has been given nomination from the UNP?
You can be precise.
I can be precise. So Mervyn Silva has been given nomination from the UNP to contest this time around. So what was the thinking there? Because he was not given nominations from the UPFA, but the UNP gives him nominations. So and now I'm trying to figure out where is this clarion call that Mahesh was talking about?
What is the formula for this? What is the equation for this? Let's forget Mervyn Silva.
Yeah, you tell me, Mahesh.
So someone is rejected by a certain political party and he gets a nomination from the other political party. Right? I will not comment on Mervyn Silva, a character. Right? So what I feel is he would have applied for nominations, he would have asked for a space, so party would have given him an opportunity. There's nothing wrong in that. And if Mervyn Silva or if Mahesh Saranayake or if X, Y, Z is wrong in this country, should be brought to the court of law, should be meted out. The law should be meted out, and he should. Law should be implemented. This is.
But I'm still trying to figure out, Mahesh, because you being a journalist saying this, we know that in Sri Lanka it's very difficult to prove in a court of law whether or not that person has made a mistake, and even if that happens, it takes years and years in a court proceedings. And you being a journalist, Mahesh, it astonishes me to know that you are saying the same thing that politicians repeat on this very show over and over again. If we are not found guilty by a court of law, we are not guilty. And you as a journalist saying this, I'm trying to figure out where is this bold Mahesh Saranayake, who was the brave journalist who he was.
I'll tell you why I decided to contest was also this. So I mean, I have escaped death 2 times. I have gone through sorrowful status in life. I have lost so many things. Even though I work for state media, we wrote without our byline. We stood for people, and that had costed my personal life as well. So I decided I will contest, and I will further dig into this corrupt politics, see into the party machinery that is corrupt. All parties, not only UNP, all parties. But if people like us are supported by people like y'all, if the public is supporting us, we can turn the tide, my brother. Yes, there are two types of courts. One is the judiciary, where these learned friends go, and the other one is the public court. We need to question as media, have we done our part right? We single out a person, we start attacking on personal agendas. This is what I have seen. But if we can create a public opinion where we enable people to say, hey, look, if Mahesh Senagi is not suitable, don't vote for him. If Mahesh Senagi is not competent enough, if they don't trust me, they should not vote. And conversely, if they feel, okay, Mahesh can do something in Parliament, they can vote for me.
Thanks a lot, Mahesh. I think I must pitch in here and say something. We at Maharaja Television strongly believe that we need to give an opportunity to youngsters who are coming in, and that is why I think we have given an opportunity for individuals like you, not only having veterans on the show on certain weeks, but also giving an opportunity for young people like you.
And I must tell Maharaja Media, Maharaja Media has been steadfast in its policies during greater difficulties. You may not know, when your station was burnt, I was a small kid, in the block, but I also supported your cause.
Right, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Mahesh. But I thought I need to say that because we have always given opportunities and we've always tried to balance with gender balance as well, trying to get Lihini and always women representation on the show. Even Azra being seated here today shows that ethos in the organization to promote women. So Kanishka, before I go to the final round, I want to pose a question to you as well. Kanishka, it surprises me that I want to ask you a very simple question. Why did Mahinda Rajapaksa lose the elections in 2015, the presidential elections, in your opinion?
2015,
the presidential election was held on the 8th of January.
The people decide something. We always respect the will of the people. So the people decided. So thereafter, for 5 years, they had to face the consequences of it. End of the time, so the economy was in the crisis. The people have again realized that they had did a mistake and again behave in a different way when voting, coming for the local authorities election as well as the presidential elections.
Yeah,
so they will do the same thing in the forthcoming parliament elections also.
Don't you think that the people voted in a new government because they wanted good governance? Let's not talk about.
They expected, the people are doing every time, the people vote with expectations.
Yeah, so they expected good governance, and that is why they elected a new government. Are we on the same page on that?
And failing.
Sorry?
Are we on the same page on that? Do you and I believe that because there need to be good governance on the 8th of January 2015, a new government came into play?
Yeah, people.
Do you agree? Yes or no?
The fraction of the people, because there was, when you take the difference,
majority of the people,
majority of the people expected something. They voted on that expectation. It didn't happen.
So how fair is it? How fair is it if that's the case? One of the reasons that the majority of the people who voted for Maithripala Sirisena at that time said was, power was being centered around three people. That is President Mahinda Rajapaksa back then, Defense Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa, now the President of the country, and also Basil Rajapaksa, who was the Minister of Economic Development. Isn't it a repetition of that equation that we are seeing right now? Because Basil Rajapaksa is the head of the task force for COVID-19. Mahinda Rajapaksa is the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. The Defense Secretary back then is now the President of the country. Power is centered around these three individuals once again.
Power is not centered around, it's a constitutional process that is going on. The power is centered, if you take the executive power, it flows from the President. President is the head of the executive. So the Mahinda Rajapaksa is a person, it's a personality accepted by the people. So it is a political figure. You can't take, he is the Prime Minister elected, or he Prime Minister appointed. So, what's wrong with that system? I don't feel the people, if it is the will of the people, ultimately becomes materialized. So, if the people want it, let the wishes of the people prevail.
The people want Basil Rajapaksa as the head of the task force.
So, it is the head of the task force is executive action.
No, because he's also part of the SLPP, because when there is an election drawing closer, a political appointee to a position of this sort, not an administrative expert, raises an eyebrow, isn't it?
So it is ultimately I mean, we have to see the past conduct and how they. Now, this is for
So past conduct
a
from Basil
specific
Rajapaksa
purpose.
is very good, is it?
For a very specific purpose. This is the decision of the president.
Okay.
President's decision is acceptable to the people. President's decision will, if it's welcomed by the people, people will behave and reacted accordingly at the forthcoming election.
Thank you very much.
And the president's will and decisions were proved to be correct with the way he handled the COVID-19 issue and how the president is going to face the challenges in the post-COVID-19 era.
Yeah,
So the president decides. We see so far all the decisions taken by the president is practical and correct.
We don't agree.
We don't agree.
We don't agree at all.
But people agree. People agree. People agree.
Okay, Mr. Basil Rajapaksa.
Right, so during the final round, yeah.
If Mr. Basil Rajapaksa is the will of the people, wish of the people, he should have contested. He's not in the
So I mean,
he's not given nominations.
And what happened to the
it's an appointment by the president.
It was promised
He's
they
not
will be
contesting
given
general
nominations.
elections.
Where are they today?
So it is a president.
He can contest general
You're
elections.
challenging.
Okay,
You're talking
then
about the
people
decision
can
of the
vote for him,
president. You're dealing with the you're
So,
focusing on the decision of the president, not on the Basil Rajapaksa.
I need to
No,
wrap
what I'm
tonight's show.
you
Mr. Mahesh Lihini and also Dr. Anil, I need to wrap tonight's show. So I want to give an opportunity for each speaker to rebut the points that was brought out by each speaker. But please make sure that you don't bring in new arguments, because if you do bring in new arguments in the final round, I will have to give an opportunity to the speaker concerned to respond to you. But because of time constraints, if there's a new argument that is being brought forward by you, I will interrupt you and then move on to the next speaker. So please be mindful that no new arguments can be brought forward in the final round. So I open the floor for answers from the four of you. So let's start off with Dr. Anil Jayantha Fernando, nationalist candidate of the National People's Power. You can state the policies of the NPP, and also if you wish to rebut any of the points that was brought forward by any of the speakers, you can also do so. In your final round, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Simply just summarizing our policies. We have just formulated very broad policies covering all the aspects to how to adopt an alternative economic policy which is free from corruption, and economic mechanism is driven by collective and participatory approaches. It's not by a single person decisions. So where we use technology, and at the same time, so we have developed a mechanism to bring all disintegrated economic activities into integrated approach through value chain covering all the aspects. So then only the people would participate and value can be created, and at the same time the benefits of this economic mechanism can be given back to the general public in a fair manner. So that is our policy. But now in the forthcoming general election, so it is likely that so we will not be given a chance. Our wish, if the general public would give us a chance, yes, of course, we would implement. But we will take this election as an opportunity to show them. So these are the correct policies, the better policies, then so through which the economy can be developed. And in order to do that, we have fielded equally qualified and competent people, so from different professionals and political background, social background, and all these things, and agreed to work on common principles, policies, virtues, not to gain personal benefits, but to work for the society. So upholding principle is nothing but the public interest. Now, as I earlier also explained, the outcome of this particular election would be something like, finally, these parties may join hands not to serve the public, but to serve or maintain or protect their positions, and sometimes directly or indirectly may join hands with this corrupt system or the corruption. Then what you do see after the election, technically NPP is going to be the opposition, no matter what the number is. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 50. It depends on the people's wish. So, but we take an opportunity for the general public to explain these things and reveal all these situations, and to be wise and analyze the political situation and come forward and send as many as MPP candidates to the parliament. Bigger the number, bigger the impact. Smaller the number, so smaller the impact. But nevertheless, no matter, under any circumstances, we are ready. We have vowed to work for the best interest of the general public.
Thanks
that
a lot.
could be assured to general public from
Thanks a lot, Dr. Anil Jan Fernando. Let's not forget that a small group of committed people can change the world, and probably the NPP is at the forefront of doing that in Sri Lanka. All the very best to you for being probably to be elected through the national list in the next parliament, Dr. Jayanta. We now move our attention to Attorney at Law Lihini Fernando from the Samagga Jana Balawegaya. You can bring out the policies and also rebut any points that the speakers brought forward during their speeches before.
So, if I am to talk a little bit about the policy, Honorable Sajith Premadasa put out his manifesto during the presidential election. The same manifesto will be revised to handle the COVID situation and how we can handle a post-COVID situation, how the economy can be revived. One of the three key fundamental things which he says is zero tolerance on corruption, zero tolerance on drugs, and zero tolerance on religious extremism. The religious extremism in this country has been one of the huge issues which we are suffering day in and day out, because if we as a country is to go forward, we need to have this whole notion that we are one. We are Sri Lankan, and we need to have that notion. So those are things that Sajith Premadasa is very firm on. And also one of the things that he speaks on is to build a meritocratic system, having the right people for the right position, and having an e-governance system, the government system to be on a tech-based system where we implement proper systems and procedures and policies. And when it comes to women, UNP, Samagga Jana Balawegaya is quite serious about women and emphasizing the rights of the women. It was together they brought in the 25% quota for women, and this is, if I may show you, this is the policy document that was launched at the presidential election. So we are going forward with the same proposals, which will be part of the manifesto, where all the rights of the women are taken into consideration. One of the key factors is establishing a women's commission. We talk day in and day out about the rights of the women, but the rights of the women have always been on the back burner. I'm very sad to say that. So rights of the women, when they go to a police station and all of that, when it comes to women, the children, their education, their health factors, all of these need to be considered. And SJB is very serious about emphasizing on the rights of the women. And when it comes to the youth, we launched the youth policy framework today, where we promise, I think it's a radical step in the history. No political party has come forward to say that we will ensure 25% quota for the youth in the next coming election, because we say that the youth of this country should be in the right position in the decision-making framework. So what better opportunity than giving them nominations? Right. So this will ensure that the youth are represented. One more thing, Shamir.
Yeah. Very quickly, I'll give you 15 seconds to wrap up.
Also, regarding the environment, we also put forward an environmental charter, and these will also be part of the manifesto. What I would like to say is this: the present government has failed. They came saying that they will implement a national security, but they have failed to even give basic security to the people. Day-night killings, day-night robberies, and there is no proper economic policy. Yeah. Let me wrap it up. There is no proper economic policy. They are printing money. They are doing things at their whims and fancies. So different laws for different people. We saw how the funeral of Honorable Thondaman was handled, and how if they can't implement laws, if they treat different people.
Thanks a lot.
So these are the things I think we need a change in the government.
So now we move our attention to Mahesh Ranayaka, a candidate of the United National Party.
Well, first of all, I would like to mention here, United National Party is UNP. Samagga Jana Balawegaya is a different political party. The Working Committee of United National Party approved forming an alliance. Today, SJB is a political party. That is why our presidential candidate had to move to a different terrain, and he formed his own party with his like-minded people. We congratulate them, but they are not part of United National Party.
I disagree.
No, how can you be?
No.
You
I
can't.
disagree.
You need to give an opportunity to Mahesh to express
it
it.
is again in front of the court of law, so the court will decide. So UNP is United National Party. The people who were the troublemakers of United National Party past 20 years are with a different party. We are very saddened by the fact that Mr. Sajith Premadasa is in kind of a jail, in emotional jail, by people who are surrounding him, who are actually the masterminded taking Sajith Premadasa to a different party. So today he stands as a non-UNPer. So UNP.
I need to rebut that.
No,
It is an allegation that he's making.
it's not an allegation.
That was
It's
part
an
of it.
allegation.
He brought in that point before as well, ladies. So,
It's an allegation he's making.
I mean, no, it's not an allegation. And we welcome one day when you all want to join, please come and join us. We will protect the party for you all. I mean, they want to join us, we don't want to join. We have never mentioned that we want to join.
We're all
if
the same.
SJB wants to join,
We're all
yes,
the
we
same.
will welcome. We will welcome. We are all same.
We're all the same. We were formed with the consensus of.
No,
we
we-
have formed with the
Lihini,
consensus.
different
Mahesh an opportunity to speak,
day,
yeah.
different day, Lihini. Don't get offended, Lihini. We congratulate the new party and we hope that Lihini, after her disciplinary inquiry, she will again join United National Party. However, the challenge for us is that UMP always goes to people, understand the people's needs, people's aspiration, and we go back to our headquarters, go back to our own shell, we brainstorm and we come up with a policy statement. So in the next 2 weeks, you will see our policy statement. UMP has fielded new candidates. The new candidates are we have new candidates who are educated and who have the capacity. We understand the post-COVID economic challenges are daunting, especially we have to pay off $13.8 billion loan repayments up to 2023. October is going to be a crunch point where we have to repay $1 billion. We don't see that government has a plan for this, and we have been classified by world many credit agencies as a country so much stressed and burdened with loans, and there is always a doubtful scenario, doubtful status quo that government will not be able to
Thank
pay
you very
back
much,
this
Mahesh.
money.
Yeah.
Therefore, our objective, our motive will be to form a government with people who have
Thank
the
you very
capacity to run the country. Because
a lot,
finally,
Mahesh.
people must
Naika.
understand when you appoint someone to parliament, he is going to stay in
Candidate
parliament for 5 years.
of the United
And
National
next
Party.
3 years is going to be an uphill
Thank
task
you
for
very
any
much,
government in
Mahesh.
power
I
to
need
solve
to
this
move
matter.
towards Attorney Adlaw Kanishka Vitarana from the Sri Lanka Opposition Peramuna. I saw you taking notes, Kanishka, but I'll give you around 3 minutes because
Yeah,
you have
so many
three people
points.
opposing the government's mission.
Yeah,
I'll
so
give you
many
3
points
minutes.
that I have to counter. But
Yeah.
but if you take this, if you take specific areas like banks, the 4% rates, because the president now insists in the banks to implement the policies, the concessions given by the circulars, and the president wants to see this being implemented. But when it comes to the present stage, now where we are heading to, the government is now concerned and more serious about the post-COVID era and the next forthcoming election. We have to elect people to meet the challenges, as my friend said. So the government is the most stable, and now by conduct they proved the most efficient of when you compared with the countries of other countries, the most efficient government in the world to overcome a situation and the fastest in a given situation. For example, now we are the first to recover. We've recovered from this COVID-19 so fast, and we come up with so many economic revival plans, and we kept our economy stable. We were concerned about the people. The government took care of the people, their daily needs. So when you take the entirety, the government has proved its efficiency, stability, and its commitment to the people, to the benefit of the people. When it comes to democracy, I always say this is the most democratic of all nations when it consider the conduct and the decisions of the president. As I said, when we want to have elections, all other parties represented by friends, all three parties, opposed to it. Now we fought for the elections. Now this forthcoming election is gifted to the people as a result of the government's commitment, government's endeavor. Now when it comes to the list that we put forward to the people, when we take the UPFA national list, all the intellectuals are there. When you take the national list of other parties, all the people who, the
You mean the
contested
SLPP national
politicians.
list?
Yeah, you see the defeated, rejected politicians are there. So we don't have such politicians in a national list. So when you're putting our candidates also, we proved that intellectuals, we want to assure the intellectuals are coming to the parliament. The people who are ready to face the post-COVID challenges are there in the parliament, and we proved our efficiency, stability, and our legality, and we are not violated the law. And also we are going to implement the new economic policy called people-centric policy, that is to assure the resources of the people are the owners of the resources, people are the beneficiaries of the economy, and we dealt with the corruption, the law and order. So those are the policies we have put forward the people. So when you come to the generality, end of the day, we are the people will welcome, and people will approve the efficiency, the past conduct, the way we behave, and we handle the government so far. When it comes to that other matter that you mentioned earlier, if the government sees the police has misconducted himself, misbehaved himself with regard to a decision, when dealing with outsiders or when with public, definitely the rule of law will prevail. The government and the president will not hesitate to take firm action, disciplinary action against the offended police officers.
Thanks a lot, Attorney at Law Kanishka Vitarana. Thank you very much, Mahesh Siranayaka, candidate of the United National Party, contesting from the Kandy district at the 5th August elections, for joining us this evening on the show. Thank you very much, Dr. Anil Jayant Fernando, nationalist candidate of the National People's Power, Attorney at Law Lihini Fernando from the Samik Jana Balawege, as well as Attorney at Law Kanishka Vitarana from the Sri Lanka Pudujana Pyramid, for joining us this evening on the show. It was a pleasure to have the three men and the woman joining us this evening on Face the Nation tonight. Thank you very much, Azra. Thank you very much, Nadeem, as always, joining us on Face the Nation. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. If we don't vote, we are ignoring history and giving away